welcome to another read aloud. I'm so excited to read this book again. I don't know about you, but I really like Swindle so far. It seems like the characters are kind of troublemakers, and so I think that's kind of fun. But hopefully you guys aren't troublemakers. You're always good, okay? So make sure that you have your virtual thinking tracks ready for today. Your assignment is to fill out the story element section. You are writing about your favorite character, so you need to write 3 complete sentences about who your favorite person is in the book so far. When you're writing about your favorite character, make sure that you tell me, tell me all about them. Tell me what they look like. Tell me what their personality is like. Who are their friends? Are they nice? Are they mean? What do you like about them? So just really think hard about why this person is your favorite character, and then make sure to write me 3 really good sentences. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. So here we go. Chapter 4. The light was on in the garage. This was no big surprise. The light was always on in the garage. It was Mr. Bing's workshop. As long as Griffin could remember, his father had been tinkering with some invention in there, but never before had Dad become so obsessed with one of his creations that he'd quit his engineering job so he could develop it full time. The smart pick, fruit picker of the future. When Griffin retreated to the garage later that afternoon to escape his parents' argument, the prototype lay on the workbench. Griffin pressed a button and the telescoping aluminum shaft whirred outward. He worked the control in the opposite direction, and the pole receded into itself. There was nothing on the market like it. The fruit-safe picking mechanism used padded pincers and a twisting motion rather than a cutting blade for a 0% chance of damaged produce. It was a revolution in agriculture, only who needs a smart pick when there are perfectly good human beings with real hands? That's true. You can just pick up fruit with hands. But, I mean, maybe his dad's onto something. I don't know. Griffin felt guilty for his disloyal thought, yet the common sense of it would not leave him alone. The Bings had bet their entire future on this so-called revolution. Otherwise, Dad would have kept his job, and nobody would be thinking about moving. It was thanks to the smart pick that his parents were in the kitchen right now, tearing their hair over some bill they didn't have enough money to pay. Their raised voices carried all through the house, bickering, agonizing, sell A to pay for B, cut corners, spend less, economize, economize, economize. And the worst part was that there was absolutely nothing Griffin could do about it. Here he was, the man with the plan, and he might as well have been a blob of Play-Doh for all he could help his family. He was too young to get a part-time job. He couldn't even hand over the $60 from the Babe Ruth card without confessing the whole Rockford House escapade. As he set down the smart pick, the pole brushed against the antenna of his father's old black and white TV. For an instant, the 10-inch screen resolved itself into a very familiar face before returning to snow and interference. Huh? Griffin fiddled with the aerial until the picture returned. No, he wasn't seeing things. Grinning out at him were the unmistakable features of Babe Ruth. It was the baseball card from the old Rockford house. He turned up the sound. When I bought the collection, I had no idea, but the instant I laid eyes on it, wow. Griffin recognized the breathlessness of the voice, like the speaker had just run a marathon. The sunny-side-up eyes of S. Swindle Palomino appeared on the small screen. What's a guy who sells overpriced Star Trek dolls doing on TV? Griffin wondered. The dealer stood in the courtyard of Palomino's emporium, holding up the Babe Ruth card for a group of reporters and cameramen. Uh-oh, you guys, this makes me feel nervous. There are a lot of similar cards out there, one woman was saying. What makes this one so special? It was printed in 1920, Palomino explained, Ruth's first season as a Yankee. But look at the picture. A cameraman zoomed in. That's a Red Sox uniform, he observed. Palomino nodded enthusiastically. Right, the Top Dog Bakery people wanted to compete with the cigarette and chewing gum companies that dominated the baseball card market. The presses were already rolling before the trade went through. They were able to call back most of the run, but 200 copies were released into circulation. Only a handful are known today. That's what makes this card especially valuable. Griffin felt his blood boil. That liar, that cheat, he said it was a fake, a knockoff from the 60s. He invented a whole story about a solid border instead of a striped one. How much is it worth, Wendell? Another reporter piped up. What are you selling it for? Gentlemen, the dealer chuckled, obviously loving every minute. This isn't the kind of item you slap a price tag on and stick in the window. The card will be sold to the highest bidder at Worthington's annual sports memorabilia auction on October 17th. The opening bid will be, he paused dramatically, $200,000. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of money. Griffin nearly choked. The reporters were astonished. You think you can get that much? Asked a woman. I think I can get more, Palomino replied smugly. Specimens from the famous T206 set frequently sell for six-figure amounts. The legendary 1909 Hannes Wagner card recently went for over $2 million. This misprint, showing the Bambino in a Red Sox uniform, is just as rare. The people at Worthington's think it could be the second card in history to break the $1 million barrier. $1 million? Griffin couldn't believe it. It was right in the palm of my hands, enough to solve our money problems for life. I'm going over to Ben's, Griffin hollered in the direction of the kitchen. He didn't wait for an answer from his parents, who were still wrangling over the checkbook. An argument that wouldn't be happening if not for S. Wendell Palomino. He jumped on his bike and pedaled down the driveway. He hoped Mom and Dad were too preoccupied to look out the window and notice that he was turning left, away from the Slavic house. He had another destination in mind. He arrived at Palomino's Emporium just as the press conference was breaking up. The reporters and crew were filing out the opening in the fence under the watchful eye of a Doberman pinscher. Excuse me, kid, a soundman brushed past Griffin, bumping him with a microphone boom. Suddenly, Griffin realized that he had no idea what he should do next. He may have been the man with a plan, but he had thought no further than getting himself to the store. What could he say? That's not his card. It's mine. Technically, that wasn't true. Griffin had sold it and had been paid in full. Yes, Palomino had tricked him by implying that the card wasn't real. It was shady, underhanded, unethical, and even sleazy. But sleaze by itself wasn't against the law. Besides, what if nobody believed him? He had no proof that he'd been the one to find the card, except for Ben's say-so. Adults didn't listen to 11-year-olds. At the town meeting, they had refused to sit through a 3-minute presentation about a skate park. Why would they accept the word of 2 kids when $1 million hung in the balance? When the media people had gone, Griffin ventured up to the store. The Doberman blocked the front door, its teeth bared. On top of everything else that was intimidating about this place, add one attack dog. Ooh, that dog sounds scary. That's okay, Luther, came a voice from inside. Reluctantly, the Doberman backed away and Griffin entered. Palomino was in his usual spot, behind the counter. With effort, he tore his attention from the baseball card in his hand. What can I do for you, sonny boy? You knew, Griffin accused him. The minute I brought you that thing, you could tell it was no fake. Wait, the dealer said. You're not saying that the piece of junk you sold me was this card. I found this in a collection I bought in an estate sale on the West Coast. Good luck. It happens. Somebody up there must like me. So where's my card? Griffin demanded. Show me my worthless piece of junk next to your Babe Ruth masterpiece. I already sold it. Took a bath on it. 2. You were lucky I gave you as much as I did. Griffin stared at him, blown away by the sheer dishonesty of the man. This wasn't some kid. It was an adult, the owner of a business. How could he act this way? Palomino spoke once more. A word to the wise, the world is a big, fat, scary place filled with people who will chew you up and spit you out if you give them half a chance. Consider this your first life lesson. I came to you for a fair deal, Griffin sputtered. Oh, come down off your high horse, the dealer sneered. You were after money, just like I was after money. Everybody's after money. Some of us are just a little better at it, that's all. Griffin's eyes narrowed. You won't get away with this. Palomino laughed. That's where you're wrong, sonny boy. You've heard that possession is 9/10 of the law. In the collectibles game, it's 10/10 of the law. If it isn't in your hand, you don't own it. Now get out of my store. He stuck a fat finger in his mouth and let out a sharp whistle. With a growl that was more of a roar, Luther burst into the shop. The Doberman sprang at Griffin, who backed away, colliding painfully with a display case of Yoda action figures. The big dog's snapping jaws were just inches from his trembling chin. Easy, Luther, Palomino commanded with a chuckle. Our friend was just leaving. The dog withdrew a half step, but no more. Terrified, Griffin managed to sidestep the Yodas and retreat in the direction of the exit. We appreciate your business. Please do not come again, the dealer heckled gleefully as Griffin turned and ran out the door. Back on his bike, Griffin struggled to wrestle his spinning thoughts into some kind of order. I've been cheated. Picturing the sentence as it might have appeared in one of his famous plans made him feel like he had a little more. Picturing the sentence as it might have appeared in one of his famous plans made him feel a little more in control. Cheated. That was exactly what had happened to him. And out of a lot more than a baseball card, $1 million to develop this smart pick. Even if the invention turned out to be a bust, that money would allow Dad to find a new job and start over. This was about the entire future of the Bing family. It was time for the man with the plan to embark on the most important plan of his life. But what could that possibly be? A lawsuit? The Bings could barely pay their mortgage. Where were they going to get money for lawyers? No, there was only one way to get the card back. Palomino had stolen it from him. Griffin had to fight fire with fire. I wonder what that means. I wonder if he thinks he's going to steal the card back. I don't know. That sounds scary, especially with that big dog. We're going to read chapter 5 and then we'll stop. Ben's eyes very nearly popped out of their sockets. You want to pull a what? Shh, whispered Griffin. It was lunch recess and the playground was crowded. A heist. Like in the movies, a robbery? That's stealing. Not stealing, Griffin amended. Stealing back. There's a big difference. Are the police going to think so? What would the police think about a store owner who rips kids off? Griffin challenged. Swindle, Ben said with a sigh. Never trust anybody whose names sound like Swindle. He's the ultimate swindle, Griffin agreed. He sure swindled me, and the only way to get that card back is to take it. What do you say? A hand came down on Ben's shoulder. I say it's time for Mr. Slavic's allergy medication, announced Nurse Savage. Oh, right, Ben exclaimed, startled. The last thing he wanted was for this robbery talk to be overheard by the school nurse. He began to follow her through a maze of whirling jump ropes. Griffin grabbed his friend's wrist. Hey, if your allergies are so bad, he asked in a low voice, why weren't you sneezing from all the mold and dust in the old Rockford house? Ben shrugged. Maybe the medicine really works. Nurse Savage held open the door, and Ben disappeared inside the building. What the? Something jagged scratched Griffin in the back of his neck. He wheeled around to find a sixth grader the size of an NFL linebacker stabbing at him with a long branch. Darren, what are you doing? Griffin shouted. Can't tell you, Darren Vader jeered, poking the stick at the bridge of Griffin's nose. I'm field testing my new invention, the dumb pick. Sorry, I thought your head was a coconut. Angrily, Griffin slapped the branch away. It's a smart pick, you idiot, and it's a miracle of technology. He would never have admitted his own doubts about his father's brainchild to Darren. You wouldn't even know about it if you weren't such a snoop. I wasn't snooping, Darren defended himself. My mom had the paper spread out on the kitchen table. Mrs. Bader was the lawyer who had filed the smart pick patent. Yeah, and way to blab it all over the school, Griffin accused. Excuse me for making sure a brilliant inventor gets some credit. You guys will be rich someday. When millions of people decide to quit their jobs and start picking fruit. Shut up, Griffin thundered. You've always got so much to say, but when it comes to action, you're nothing. What about the old Rockford house, huh? Where were you on Friday night? I had the flu, Darren mumbled. You don't look like you're at death's door. It was a 24-hour bug, Darren exclaimed. There was a lot of that going around, Griffin clucked disapprovingly, raising his voice to reach some of the other sixth graders nearby. Nice show of solidarity. You guys, I'm going to have to look that word up. I've never read that word. Solidarity? You guys, leaving Ben and me to stand up for the kids in this town? Sorry, Griffin, said Antonia Benson, who went by her climbing nickname Pitch. My family was at the indoor Rockwell. I completely spaced. Me too, admitted Marcus Oliver, totally blanked. Griffin was unconvinced. You guys didn't blink when it came to filling Ben full of stories about railway spikes and possessed pets. There's no such thing as a possessed pet, lectured Savannah Drysdale. Animals are all innocent inside. And speaking of animals, that's why I couldn't be there on Friday. Madame Curie was about to litter my hamster. And, Pitch prompted. It was a boy, Savannah reported happily, and another boy, and 3 girls. Well, I didn't miss it for any dumb reason like that, said Logan Kellerman. I have an audition for an acne cream commercial. I had to stay home and rehearse. Rehearse what? Darren laughed, squeezing zits. That's so rude. That shows what you know about acting. It's all emotional. The audience had to really believe my heartbreak over having a pimple. You are a pimple, Darren grunted. Whatever the reason, we're all sorry, Griffin, Pitch put in. We shouldn't have flaked out on you that way. Maybe some of us were a little scared. Maybe we just didn't think it was worth it. Walking past that big pile of rubble this morning, I wished I had been there. Our loss. You bet it's your loss, Griffin said resentfully. But with the fruits of that venture, the Babe Ruth card, in S. Swindle Palomino's chubby hands, he was in no mood to tell them why. Mrs. Martinez's students were working on their creative writing assignments when Ben got back to class. He deliberately avoided Griffin's searching eyes as he took the seat next to his friend. Let's get together after school to start work on the plan, Griffin whispered eagerly. Every second he'd spent with the nurse, Ben had been dreading this conversation. Since the days when Griffin's plan had involved bicycles with training wheels, Ben had always been in. It had become as constant as the sunrise. That was what made this so difficult. Griffin, I can't. Obviously, we'll have to do some surveillance on the store, Griffin went on. Pinpoint the weak spots. Ben wasn't even surprised that Griffin had missed his refusal. Once his friend was on a mission, nothing short of an earthquake would get his attention. You're not listening, man. I can't do it. The answer is no. That was earthquake enough. What are you talking about? Griffin asked. Why not? Ben looked at him helplessly. Where do I start? It's against the law. You'll never get away with it, and it's just plain wrong. It isn't wrong, Griffin said stoutly. What Swindle did, that's wrong. We're just setting it right again. Okay, so it's not wrong, but it's wrong for us. We're not burglars. I know we talk about how kids can do anything adults can, but not this. Griffin's voice rose in tone and volume. Then Swindle wins. Shh, hissed Mr. Martinez from behind his desk. How can you let that jerk get away with taking advantage of us? Griffin continued in a slightly lower voice. How can you let him get rich doing it? That's my card, my money, our money, because I was going to give you half. I don't want to be rich, Ben shot back. Okay, maybe I do, but not this way. Boys, quiet, the teacher said warningly. I have to do this, Griffin pleaded. I can't explain, but there's a good reason. Of all my plans, this one is the most important. You always say that. Every plan is the most important till the next one comes along. This time it's true, Griffin exclaimed. The money. Griffin and Ben, Mr. Martinez interrupted angrily. Since you can't work quietly as neighbors, you're going to have to move. Ben, you go over and sit with Logan. Griffin, take the empty desk behind Melissa. But, Mr. Martinez, Griffin began, now. As he gathered up his papers, Griffin looked beseechingly at his best friend. He mouthed the word, "Please." Ben could barely muster the strength of will to shake his head no. Griffin's despair was total. Year in and year out, there had always been one constant, one thing that could be relied on through floods and asteroid strikes, the unchanging fact that Ben was willing to follow him anywhere. Yet today, with so much at stake, his loyal friend had let him down. He had never felt so hopeless. All right, guys, what do you think about this? I feel like Griffin has a good reason to try and get the card back, but maybe he's going about it a really bad way. And what do you think about Ben? Do you think he's being disloyal, or do you think he's trying to be smart and being a good influence? I'm curious what you think. Remember to write about your favorite character in your thinking tracks today. 3 really good sentences, and we'll stop there. Okay, see ya.